All right. Today we are here with Kaile Rothstein. How are you doing today?
I'm great.
Awesome. And we're on location at Stick, Stone, and Bone, Williamsburg.
Yep.
This is
Crystal store.
All right. Would you like to tell people what type of store this is besides just crystals and things in here, but what else is in here?
So we sell like crystals and incense. We sell some tarot cards and books. It would kind of just be like I don't know, like a spiritual practice kind of store.
Makes sense. All right. So, when did you start getting into things of this nature, the spirituality? Was it something you've always done, or did you have like this awakening moment that everyone seems to have because we grew up in this type of society that the only way to go down this road is to have some type of a breaking moment?
Yeah, so I definitely have had my own like multiple awakenings. But ever since I was little, I was really into crystals. I was really into, like, I was always, like, the black sheep and never kind of got along with people in school. And I was, like, the weird shy kid. And I remember, like, being younger and telling my parents, like, I see ghosts and different colors.
Oh,
and
interesting.
stuff.
Okay.
And they always just thought it was super weird. Like, no, it's just your imagination. So I feel like I've always been highly sensitive, but... and then as I've gotten older, and gotten into different things, I've had, like, full-on, like, awakenings.
Okay.
And I feel like there's been multiple of them.
Okay, so what would you say, since you've seen like deities, some type of a ghost or a figure, what do you think those are? Do you think it's like a figment of your imagination, or do you think it's a figment of a collective consciousness of people's imagination, or do you think it's actually something that exists outside of people?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I know when you're younger, you're highly intuitive and highly sensitive, and you don't have like all these constructs of what's real and what's not, like, ingrained in your brain.
Okay.
So I think it was real. I still believe it was real. It could have been a collective thing I was seeing. It could have been partly my imagination as well. But I like to believe that I thought it was real.
No, reason I asked is because you told me you took peyote recently.
No, so I was in Mexico and did San Pedro.
San Pedro. Okay. So, what type of experience is it? Like a hallucinogen, or is it like more of like a meditative type of a thing?
So that was my first time experiencing that medicine, and it comes from a cactus, and it's like a form of mescaline.
Okay.
So what I experienced, it was just very like warming and heart opening. We did it on the day after Halloween, so All Saints Day.
Okay.
And we all sat in ceremony, and it was really cool because a few minutes after we had taken it, and we made it into like a mango smoothie because it tastes disgusting.
Oh, I bet.
And we were all just going around and sharing, and one of the guys got a message was like, oh, I see this older woman, and she's wearing turquoise, and one of our friends just starts crying, and he's like, wow, I've been like really connected to my grandma, and she just passed away a few months ago, and she always used to wear turquoise. And our friend kind of explained to her, and he's like, that's who I see. And everyone just kind of went into this experience of talking about people who have passed on, and we could fully feel them in that moment, and that kind of went on throughout the entire day. So it's kind of cool because it was All Saints Day, so it's like people coming back, and like the veil is super thin that day. So I don't know, it's just very heartwarming and heart opening, and somebody there said it kind of felt like MDMA. I've never taken that, so I'm not sure what that felt like, but it was just, you just felt really good. It wasn't super psychedelic.
Okay. Have you taken any other types of psychedelics before?
Yes.
Okay, have you? How much did you take? Because they're like, if you take like a certain amount, you can possibly like go through the veil. That's why I was
Yeah.
asking about the ghost you saw earlier. Do you think like those things are like when you take mushrooms, you're more uh, you can look through the veil a little bit easier to see the ghost type of beings.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. What I've experienced with my psychedelic experiences is more. Um, I don't think I'd want to see ghosts and stuff.
Okay.
Um,
So what's like when you have taken mushrooms before or something like that?
so one of my most recent experiences, I was in ceremony with my partner, and we had done, I mean, it was like a full-on ceremony. So before we did Sananga and Hape, we did a microdose of smile medicine, which is LSD,
Okay.
and then some mushrooms as well. And I found myself just like blasted off into alternate realities, experiencing different versions of myself and different versions of him. And I mean, I literally melted into the bed, and that was my entire experience. Was like very visual, very just like in these other timelines.
Hmm.
It was absolutely insane. I've never experienced anything like that when I've done psychedelics, but
That's very fascinating. So do you think those were actually real like planes of existence, or was it
100%.
okay, awesome. Like what was like what who were you in like another realm? What's an example of like one of your
So
lives if you remember that?
I remember seeing myself as another woman, which is crazy because she's come to me in dreams
Oh wow. What is like
before I even had this experience. I also took a shamanism class, and she came to me then when I was journeying as well. So I believe this woman is actually an alternate version of me.
hmm.
But she's a medicine woman, and I mean, yeah, I just saw myself experiencing that and helping other people through medicine work and doing healing work.
Wow. That's very fascinating that you can see yourself as a completely different person.
It was insane.
Okay, so uh, when you first okay, when you first started taking like psychedelics, were you just kind of just taking it to experiment, or did you know exactly what they were when you were doing it?
So when I first did it, it was definitely more to just experiment, and then I got to a point where I more so wanted to honor the medicine and just like how it grew and the nature behind it. So putting more intentions into it and making it more of a ceremonial purpose rather than like, oh, I want to trip nuts and just like go crazy, just kind of going within myself and seeing what kind of things I can uncover and healing I could do through it.
Wow.
And
Okay.
using it more as a tool than a something to just trip off of, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, that's perfect. That makes total sense. My experience was similar. Like, first time I took it, I was just kind of, it was like late high school, so I was just taking shit just to experiment. And once I
Yeah.
took it, I realized that this was a little bit different than anything I've experienced before. So, like years later, I look into it and I realize that, well, when I hallucinate, it's like I feel like my brain is working better.
Yeah, because it's actually connecting receptors that have never been turned on before
Exactly.
in a short sense.
No, it's true. That's why I've written that book I wrote, Disconnect to Reconnect, is kind of about
Yeah.
the mushroom experience, but not just dedicated to taking hallucinogens. Just the part where like the synapses in your brain, you can go all the way back into like early childhood and redirect it and become basically a completely different person.
Oh, and the things it's uncovered for me, I mean, most recently I did a combo ceremony.
What's a Kumba ceremony?
Combo. So combo is frog medicine. It comes from the Amazonian rainforest.
What was that like?
And that's not psychedelic at all. It's very physical, and it's basically to just release a lot of trauma and a lot of toxins throughout your body. But I realized after I did that ceremony, a lot of childhood memories were coming up.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it was completely because of that medicine, because I was also doing a lot of coaching work, and I feel like that's the foundation of any kind of plant medicines or anything that you're doing. 70% of it is actually you and how your brain is functioning. 30% is the medicine that you're taking. So I feel like coaching work is really the foundation of everything, just to rewire how you experience life and how you choose to react to different situations. And yeah, I found myself uncovering childhood traumas and going back, and I mean, it's just been really deep healing work recently.
Oh, makes perfect sense. The other day I was watching the LSD experiments from like the CIA, what they used to do to people like in the 60s when they were trying to figure out how to map the brain and control human consciousness. What they did, they gave people acid and started electroshocking people. That's kind of intense, but what they realized is that they did get back to that point in the brain where there was no memory. Some people didn't recover from that though. So I feel like maybe that route, but a little bit alter it slightly, then you can possibly get the result they were looking for.
Yeah, I also have read some studies about, I can't remember his name, but he's actually cured people with addictions through LSD, because it will rewire the pathways in your brain, and it will actually cure addiction. Like people who are alcoholics, it will completely rid them of that addiction.
Oh yeah, like for instance, some person I used to know, used to chat with, she said that she was about to hang herself. Like she had the rope and everything, and then she walked. Well, she looked into a drawer and she saw some mushrooms that someone just happened to give her. I don't know. This could be like a little bit fabricated, but this is just how I was told it. She took the mushrooms, and then she ended up not wanting to kill herself. And so that it makes sense to me because I understand how that can function, but I don't know if any of that's fabricated at all.
I mean, I believe that. I mean, what you experience through plant medicines are so powerful and so healing. It really just makes you go so deep, even if you're not fully conscious of like spirituality or anything. It still pushes you into those realms.
Okay, so have you? Okay, so I've known you also do Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
What is Reiki, and do you? What are your thoughts on Reikiing like while hallucinating? If that makes any, if that's a correlation where you feel like you might be able to actually go deeper and like literally see someone's memory where they like might have got a bruised rib when they were younger, if you like put your hands over it.
Yeah, so I've never like done Reiki work while I've been hallucinating, but
That might be something to try out one day.
But I feel like, so I love energy work simply because it gives you the power. So I like to say, like, I'm not the one healing you. Like, I'm just giving you permission to heal yourself. And that's the same with any type of plant medicine. It's just giving you more permission.
Okay. All right. The last person I interviewed, I asked something like this. He's like a scientist, so it was very interesting what his response was. So you said that you took a hallucinogen and you saw this lady that you saw before that could be you in a different life.
Yeah.
Do you think that possibly that you could be communicating with one of your genetic relatives, and that maybe, like I was getting at earlier, they might not be independent of yourself because like it's in your DNA, but you're just kind of accessing it. also what I'm getting at is that DNA is like liquid memory, and like all your ancestors, everything they ever did is recorded, even within like one little single blood drop.
Yeah.
So, do you think possibly it could be you're just communicating with a prior ancestor who was possibly a spiritual master? That's why it might be easier to communicate with her compared to someone who was just, uh, I guess, not into things of that nature.
Totally. I mean, I believe that that woman who I saw could have been some type of mentor or something to me, but at the same sense, like, these are just our, like, meat suits. This isn't actually me, this isn't actually you, and you could even say, like, I am you and you are me in a full sense of things.
Yeah, totally, totally. It's all just energy and frequency. That's do you ever find because I remember you saying before one time I came here and bought something that you're not a masked person. So do you think like experiencing things of that nature, then having to go back into a world where there are people who are like super into politics, like scared of everything, wearing masks, like is that transition like brutal to your brain sometimes where you have to like deal with people and you're doing like stuff where it's energy and like everything you can see such a wide scale and then you have to deal with people who like live in kind of a tiny bucket in a way.
Totally. So, what, like, my main passion, I'm a hairstylist.
Okay. Oh, yes, I've seen that. How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for about, like, 8 years now. So, I believe, like, as soon as you touch somebody, like, you could feel their energy immediately. And I have so many clients, especially now, that come in and, I mean, it's kind of hard not to talk about it, but, like, everything that's going on in the world and the politics, and it's, like, super trippy, just, like, how you walk into a grocery store and people are just wearing masks, and I don't know, my biggest thing about that is, that frustrates me, is how are people not questioning things? Because it's so in front of your face, and I feel like people are so blinded by fear that they just kind of want somebody to tell them what to do to make themselves feel better, like a codependent relationship, kind of.
That basically nails it. That I think that's.
So yeah, it really does. It just kind of makes you realize you shouldn't have judgment for other people on these people, and it's really hard because when you kind of have your own truth of something and you see people who you truly do love and care about having this belief system and so caught into the illusion of fear, you really just need to give them more compassion. And I feel like that's my biggest lesson right now, because I could fall so easily into judgment, and I just have to remind myself, like, it's their own belief system.
Yeah, but okay, I understand, because like there's plenty of people that I'll say I love, and sometimes I look at some of the things they're into and it kind of blows my mind, but I guess everyone's alarm clock doesn't go off at the same time when it
and
comes
I think
to
that's
awakening.
where, exactly, and I think that's where, people are like, oh, you're ascending to like the fifth dimension and people are going to stay in the 3D, and I always thought, like, what does that mean? Like, are we going to be in a different world than other people?
So, that's an interesting question. So, what do you think the afterlife is? Do you think it's anything like that? Like, any tiers? Like, someone might get trapped in 2D in, like, Mario World, where they're flat or something?
I believe we live many different lives, so I don't think when you die, your soul will actually die, and you'll just... I believe you might go into some sort of, like, different... Have you seen the movie Soul?
No, I have not.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's like an animated movie, and it's so cute, but it goes really deep into, it goes really deep into like the afterlife and astral projection and stuff like that. And I'm like, how is this a kids movie? Because it really does go so deep.
Okay. Is that new?
I think so.
Wait,
it's on Disney Plus. It's so good and so cute, but it goes deep. It's like if you have that knowledge, you see it.
Is it a musician or something like that? Okay, I saw pictures of that before.
It's really good, but I feel like before how I was talking about like questioning, well, what will that be like if I'm transcending into the fifth dimension? Like, what about like my family who haven't had their awakenings?
Yeah.
Are they gonna stay in the 3D? And I feel like that's what we're experiencing now, is all of these people kind of caught up in politics and the fear and all of that, where there's other people that kind of don't let that bother them. Like, I feel like so much of my life has changed since last year. But at the same time, like, you have the choice to either, like, be in the fear mindset and let it, like, truly affect you in a negative sense, or, like, rise above it and have it work for you rather than against you. Like, life is happening for you, not to you.
Totally. But yeah, I do believe something like that is true, where we're all on different vibrational frequencies, and according to how you, it's kind of, in a strange way, it's very biblical, but I don't think it's like as specific as you go straight to hell, like a burning place. It might be some type of a hell, like whatever your mental torture would be, what maybe you inflicted that on someone. It might just be some type of a 5-minute time loop where you just
like
experience
karma.
that
like
forever.
If you did bad things in your life, you might be reincarnated as, like, I don't know if you want to use the sense of like Hitler. Like, maybe he was reincarnated into somebody who like got abused all the time, and something like that.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't have to be that serious of like, oh, they're going into hell, but like, I mean, you have the choice to make this life right now that we're living either heaven or hell.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just our experiences and what we make out of it, and that's literally right now we could be in heaven or hell.
Okay, okay, because I know you're a vegan, so I'm gonna ask you an interesting question.
Yeah.
I know, like, if you're a vegan, you think factory farm, terrible, like fucking cancer on society. But what if I told you that every rapist is reincarnated into one of those factory farm animals, and that it's kind of a hell on earth for those people who can't ascend, but they're sent back here to be in punishment maybe for a few lives.
I could get down with that. I believe that, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so I don't know. Who knows? That could be totally possible. Like what you said, they can come back to like a crackhead parent that sells them for crack or something like that.
Yeah.
That's totally possible. That's pretty interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just energy, and I believe karma doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, you do this bad thing and something bad's gonna happen to you. It's more kind of like, if there was a fish, if you're like swimming and you splash your friend and they're mad about it or something, maybe because of that, the karma is like there was a fish there and you used the energy of the splash to move that fish away from getting eaten by a bigger fish. Like,
maybe
that could be karma too.
No, that makes perfect sense. Everything is everything, you know. Sometimes you might trip, and that stops you from getting hit by a car 12 days later. Because just that little time where you tripped and you just thought, dang, I just tripped, and you got up, that 1 second saved your life in 12
So I
days.
had this crazy experience a little over a year ago. I was flying back from Salt Lake City visiting my brother.
Okay.
And I took a red-eye home, so I didn't sleep at all on the plane. Landed here in the morning, and my ex-boyfriend picked me up. He was my boyfriend at the time, but ex-boyfriend. And we were driving. My car was at a friend's house. He was fixing it for me while I was gone, and we had to pick it up. And I'm like, man, just take me home. I'm so tired. If I were to drive right now, I might get into a car accident and die.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some coffee. I felt a little bit better. So we were going to pick up my car, and we got into a car accident.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, luckily we were fine. We spent the day in the hospital. I had to get my forehead glued, but
Oh, like you got like a concussion little.
yeah,
That's great though.
had to get a bunch of MRIs and CAT scans. But I mean, luckily everything was good, and I was just thinking like, you know, what if, like, I literally saw that happening, but what if because we got into that car accident, it was saving me from getting into a car accident in my own car where I could have actually died.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. That, like what caused it? Was it just like a random act of randomness that got you into a car accident, like on the way to getting into your car?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's just wild that I had said those words beforehand, like literally 20 minutes before it happened.
Like some survival stories I've heard are crazy. Like they're 1 in a million. Like someone gets trapped in the desert and somehow a random person finds them like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
You don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Okay, so, what are your thoughts on cannabis is now somewhat legal in Virginia? How long have you been experimenting with the cannabis?
So I got into cannabis, I mean, honestly, when I was still in high school. And really it was just, I feel like I was using it to, like, hide my emotions.
Wow, I've heard someone say exactly that not too long ago.
I feel like a lot of people use it that way to just kind of block things out. Like I had talked about before, I think coaching work is really the core foundation of mindset over plant medicine, and that's how you get the best experiences out of plant medicine, is when you have that foundation. So then I took a break, honestly, for probably like a year or so. Got back into it again. I feel like it was just kind of to mask my emotions because I was going through a lot of just trauma and stress. My cat died. I broke up with, ended a relationship that I was in for 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah. Got into a new relationship, and then I was working out in LA. So it was like a lot of things were happening and a lot of new things, and cannabis just kind of numbed it out and made me just not deal with those heavy emotions inside of me. And honestly, because of that, I got a cyst. And I feel like that's something I do want to talk about. When you don't actually deal with your emotions, it will get stored in your DNA. And it will show up as something as simple, I mean, it could be like back pain or like a toothache or something like a cyst like I had experienced.
Wow.
I mean, for a lot of people, it could even show up as cancer. So all of those things start outside of our auras and then kind of go deeper within the layers. And if you don't address them, it will show up as physical ailments eventually.
Wow. Yeah, I believe that as well.
So I believe I got that cyst after just years of not expressing myself and being able to feel my emotions.
Okay, continue.
And now, like, I've taken breaks from cannabis and gotten back into it, and it's a lot more of a mindful practice where I use it as a ceremonial purpose where I can honor the plant medicine and use it for more healing purposes rather than just blocking out.
Are you familiar with Terrence McKenna? You've heard that name. His theory was that the best way to use weed is that use it maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month so you can get like the full effect, so you can totally blast off as far as you can go, and then take as much as you can, then not do it for a bit. So that makes perfect sense, because I somewhat recently took like a month or so off, The first time I smoked weed again, it was like I felt like I could see electric energy and
It's very
things of that
different once
nature.
you become a lot more sensitive to like your external reality, but also your internal reality. Like you could feel just for me, I could feel where I'm holding stored emotions and energy, and yeah, I just become highly sensitive.
Makes perfect sense. So, yeah. So yeah, kind of brain for it for a second, but you said you took a year or so off.
Hmm.
So, and you just started somewhat again. So, what are your okay? What have you ever taken edibles before?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on smoking versus taking edibles?
Um, I don't know. I think everybody will experience things differently. And for me, edibles can be great. I like lower doses of edibles because I don't like to just be couch locked. And
It's
they
strong.
hit you really hard. I've had experience where I've made my own edibles out of vaped weed.
Yeah,
And
perfect.
I literally ate one brownie and couldn't walk up my stairs. So it's all different. And then I've been to Seattle where you could get stuff in dispensaries and like had eaten like a Rice Krispie treat and gone on a plane and things were fine.
Oh, you got yo. What was that like?
I will never do it again. Simply because just like in that altered space and being with so many
God.
people, and I mean airplanes,
Oh.
like I get nervous flying anyways, so it
Yeah.
just kind of heightens that. So yeah, I wouldn't do that again. I do like doing edibles on lower doses, like when I'm just maybe have a day off and want to paint or write or play music, and it just kind of calms my mind and brings me into a different mindset without just being like totally blasted off. And I like edibles because you're not doing damage to your lungs. And it's just a different experience. I do love, like,
Totally.
my favorite thing ever is rolling joints. Like, just something about it, like, grinding up the weed and, like, it's a whole
It's
meditation.
ritualistic. Yeah, ritualistic. Totally. And what I realized when I first started smoking weed again, like a month ago, when I took that break, I smoked like this much,
Oh,
like
you can't
the
smoke what you
tiny,
used to, yeah.
tiny bit. I took a tiny hit, and it was like, I was like, yo, I'll forget how strong cannabis actually is. It's
Yeah.
actually like per percentage, like per gram, it's way stronger than mushrooms
Yeah.
if you don't take them for a while.
So my boyfriend was using cannabis for, I believe he said 11 years, every single day straight. Would literally wake up and take dabs, and it got to a point where he was like, I don't want to be dependent on this. So he took a 30-day break. And I'm really proud of him because that just takes a lot of like self-realization and motivation to do.
Totally.
And on New Year's, I believe, he was like, okay, let's roll a New Year's joint, let's smoke. And he was like, whoa,
Oh, God.
I feel like I'm tripping. Like, he was like, I can't do
Yes.
this like I used to anymore.
Yes.
And yeah, he was just kind of like, I want to make this a lot more mindful when I do use it, honor the medicine, and just make it a ceremony.
Yes, that's the perfect way to do it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't knock smoking weed somewhat daily as well, because that's
No, everybody's
yeah.
different, and I mean, whatever, as long as you're using it intentionally and not to numb out. And I'm a kind of person that doesn't like to be reliant on anything. So like even when it comes to like me taking my own vitamins and supplements, like I'll take them for a month and then I won't take them for a few days and just see how I feel. Because I'm like, well, one day if I don't have this, I don't want to have to need it.
Do you feel any different, like within a day or two of not taking the vitamin?
Not dramatically different.
Yeah, same.
And I think that's just because, I don't know, maybe it just rewires your brain, maybe it changes your mindset, maybe all these things, I don't know.
Okay.
I do believe there's a time and a place where, I mean, I like taking shilajit. I think that's how you pronounce it. Which is, it comes from, like, a bunch of decomposed plant matter and stuff. They find that up in like volcanoes and mountains. And it has tons of minerals and nutrients in there, and it's literally like black tar, but it's so beneficial to your body. And I feel like taking something like that on a daily basis is so powerful because you can really just feel yourself kind of getting these little upgrades. And even like yesterday, I went out to dinner and the guy like brings me ice cream and there's like those little edible flowers in there. And I was talking to my friend, I was like, I love eating these flowers because I just feel like you get these like little magical flower upgrades.
You do. They're the symbolism.
Yeah.
Totally.
And same with being vegan. Like that's why I love being vegan and eating like live food rather than dead food. Like you get all of those live nutrients in your body.
Okay. Because I looked up I've done a lot of like research into like mythology and ancient cultures and whatnot. And the Egyptians, what they would do is everyone is a priest, but you only practice for 2 months or whatnot. But while you're practicing, you're not allowed to eat meat. So even back then, they had some type of a correlation to not eating dead carcasses and being more spiritual and whatnot. And what they would do is they would take mushrooms and go into the pyramids because the pyramids, they emit some kind of sound frequency or something like that. So I'm guessing that if you're hallucinating, you can probably hear it a lot
I think because
easier.
your channel's more clear.
Yes.
I mean, I think of it as like I don't know, like my thoughts on veganism, like I don't want to use my temple as a cemetery.
Totally.
And when, especially here in this day, like how we treat the animals that people eat, like the meat industry, the dairy industry, all of that, like the things that they do, like it literally, that trauma that, let's say, the cow is experiencing when it gets taken away from its mother, and it all gets stored in their DNA, and then you're eating that. So you're eating all of that negative energy, and it gets transferred to you. Totally.
Exactly, 100%. I believe that.
Yeah.
It's legit. You can see it in people sometimes. What one of my friends brought up to me is that she thinks that a lot of the older people who were kind of eat a lot of meat or aren't healthy, they kind of die bad. So she said the cries and the pain that they were in sounded like the animals in the factory farms. I was like, I don't know, maybe there's a type of a correlation. I mean, everyone doesn't go out bad, like being like
So
slowly.
I had a Reiki client, and he told me that he got bitten by a tick, and I can't remember what it's called, but he got that reaction where he could no longer eat meat.
Okay.
And as I'm doing Reiki on him, I could feel a lot of trauma in his heart space. And I'm kind of like going in, and I'm like, I think this is actually past karma. So maybe in the past he could have been a butcher or something. And now this is his karma where he got this, I don't want to call it an infection, but whatever that is where the tick bites you and then you can no longer eat meat because you get sick of it.
That's not Lyme's disease, right?
Oh, it's something else, but people will get sick and no longer be able to eat meat. And I'm like, hey, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
You need to
It's giving you
like
an opportunity to take better care of your health. And I just kind of went into the energetics behind it. I was like, maybe this is your own karma.
Maybe. Like, shit. That's legit. Like,
yeah.
Somehow we can give that to everybody. It's like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's end on this note. Okay, what do you think, this is kind of a broad stroke or whatnot,
Okay.
What do you think this reality is? You're in here every day. Do you think this is some type of a simulated universe? Do you think it's a projection? Do you think maybe you don't exist or outside of here maybe? Or what do you think's going on?
I don't know. I have many different thoughts. I'm big into conspiracy theories, but I'm
Like what?
also
What's
like,
your favorite one?
I don't know. There's so many. But
9/11
sometimes
is
I'm
pretty
like,
bad.
okay, guys, let's just take the virtual reality headset off, and like we're just aliens chilling up in space, and like this is the virtual reality of us being humans. But I don't know. I believe we're all here to learn more about ourselves.
Okay. Do you think?
And by
Okay.
learning more about ourselves, we learn more about God. I don't necessarily believe in like a God. I believe you are your own God and everybody is God.
Yeah. Okay.
We're all
Gotcha.
creators. So I
That's what
think,
it says in the Bible that that even one of the quotes that Jesus says is that we can do all the stuff that he does, like the miracles or whatnot, like walk on water, transmute water into wine. Like that's a pretty cool party trick. Like
well, the
Jesus seemed
thing
like a
is,
cool guy.
like that saying of like Jesus turned water into wine, it's really, he was feeling such a enlightened frequency where he could teach other people how to be on that same frequency, where
Yes.
you could literally be drinking water and be getting drunk off of it. It's not that he literally turned water into wine.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think
Same
that?
with like,
Okay.
so when my boyfriend was doing his 30 days no cannabis,
Right.
he tested something and was like doing a bunch of breath work.
Okay.
And he's like, what if you just pretend you're smoking? And he did it and was like, I feel high just from that. Like, oxygen is the original plant medicine.
Totally. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think, okay, Jesus was just on a high frequency and he could interpret things however he wanted it to inside of his body. You don't think
Yes.
he was
I don't
actually
think
walking on water if he was, okay,
Yeah.
so you think that, okay,
I think things written in the Bible is kind
okay.
of like, the telephone game.
Oh, totally, totally. That's why I'm talking in such a broad
Yeah.
spectrum. So do you think like, okay, he didn't heal people, he taught them how to heal themselves in a way.
Definitely. I think any type of healing work, even, like I said, even plant medicines and stuff, it only gives you permission to heal yourself.
Okay, so you're somewhat familiar with the Christian lore. Have you ever gotten to like the Gnosticism, like what happened before Christianity?
I'm not super familiar
Okay,
with
all right.
religion and stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha. Because the supposedly like the Gnostic scripts are the original teachings of Jesus. I haven't read them or I just know it broadly, but it does feel a little bit more on the spiritual aspect compared to how the Bible seems so concrete and everything is too structured.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, I always said I wanted to read the Bible like from front to back, just kind of as a book.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And just to learn what there is, because I feel like there's always there's truth and not truth in all religions. So take whatever you feel like is true to you.
Totally. Like I've seen like you can even look it up on like YouTube or whatnot. There's Bible historians that break it down and make it make a little more sense. Like, for instance, where he says the beast 666, that what a lot of people think he's talking about is carbon because it's 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. Then you have Jesus, right? We celebrate his birthday in Capricorn season, and Capricorn season is represented by Saturn. Saturn is known as the carbon giant, and carbon 666, Saturn during Capricorn season. So it's kind of a story of the astrology. But if you don't know that, then I feel like you're a little bit lost.
Mhm. Totally.
Gotcha. All right. Well, this has been interesting. It was nice talking with you. Okay, so if you want to find her online or hire her to do like a Reiki or a hair session, where can they find you?
So I guess you guys could just find me on Instagram. My handle is Kaile Does Things, spelled Kaile, and then Does Things. And yeah, you can message me, send me a DM, and ask me questions, book an appointment, whatever.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you. This was great.